Deloitte, JP Morgan. So we are incredibly lucky to have her here today. And I really hope this demonstrates the caliber of the experts that we use at the Access Group. If you stay to the end, then Esther is offering a free copy of her award-winning book, Goodbye Glassphobia. So without further ado, let me pass over to Esther Stanhope.
Thank you so much. Give her a round of applause. Thank you. A bit louder. Come on. Standing room only. Come on, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Oh my goodness, this is quite an experience, isn't it? It's like talk about lots of senses, all your 5 senses going in one go, which is actually very important when it comes to storytelling. So my first question to you, before I tell you what's coming up on the show today, I call it a show because that's my background, broadcasting, live television. Coming up on the show, how to tell stories versus dump data. Yeah, does that sound like something quite useful? Hands up if that feels quite useful for you. How to tell stories versus dump data. Why tell stories? That's a pretty obvious one, but I've got some really good data to prove why you should tell a story. But also how easy it is to tell a story, because when I talk to my clients all over the world, I work with a lot of people that are in data analytics, that are in law or engineers, and quite often people think, yeah, but my job isn't really a storyteller, I'm not a creative person, I'm not really a natural storyteller. So my first question to you, my friends, do you think that you are not a natural storyteller? Hands up if you think, I'm not really a natural storyteller. Hands up if you think, for my job, I don't really tell stories. That's right, keep your hands up, good, good, good. Okay, so about 50% of you think, I'm not really a natural storyteller. Well, I've got some good news for you today. Everybody and anybody, no matter where they are from, no matter who you are, how tall you are, how good looking you are, it doesn't matter. You can tell a story, and I am going to prove to you that you are going to change your mind today in the next few minutes. I'm going to prove to you that you can tell a really good story really easily and quickly. So, my first tip, by the way, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 8 tips. Okay, I've got 28 years of experience, and yes, I have interviewed George Clooney. He's not that good looking. And Madonna, who is quite moody and only 5'2" in real life. I've got stories coming out of my ears, but my first tip out of 8 quick tips today for your takeaway is tip number 1. Start with a story. No matter where you are from, what your sector is, whether you're in banking, whether you're in learning, HR, if you are doing a presentation or a pitch or a town hall meeting, or any meeting actually, it's always a good idea to start with a little story. So tip number 1 is start with a story. So I've got a little story to share with you. Now, we are giving away free coffees. If you want to ask me questions about celebrities, I've got loads of those stories, but I'm not going to start with a celebrity story yet. I'll leave you to ask me that at the end. I'm going to start with a little story about when I left the BBC as a senior producer. And yes, I did have to deal with quite a few difficult personalities as a producer. But when I left the BBC, I started working with leaders, bankers, lawyers. Are there any lawyers here today? Few. Right, so one of my first clients was a very senior lawyer, and it was my job to help her get her speech ready for the Partners Conference. And she said, "Oh, great, Esther, I'm going to run through my speech with you, because you're from the BBC, you can help me with my speech." Because I am really good at helping people with their speeches. I can help anybody with their wedding speech, best man speech, you name it, I can help you. So I said, okay, let's run through your speech. So she started going on with the speech out, and then she said, this is for about 700 partners at a law firm. The speech was for 700 people. She said, my vision is to change what we are doing in the law firm, and firstly, we need to change the way that we structure our HR or something like it was. Anyway, that was her first point. Secondly, we need to collaborate more with other departments. And I was like smiling and giving them some encouragement. She says, thirdly, we need to make sure that the partners understand the issues for the associates. And then she looks down and she says, fourthly, she carries on. And I'm thinking, right, I start writing notes. Remember the rule of three. And then I look up, she says, and fifthly, we need to do, anyway, and I was like, and I was thinking, right, okay, shall I interrupt her? She carries on. Ninthly, carrying on writing notes, smiling, and she carries on. 11thly, I'm not joking, 11thly, and she carries on. 13thly, 16thly, I am not joking, and then it got to, guess what number she went up to? Guess what number?
22.
What was it? Not quite as much as 25. She got up to 19, okay? No, 19. She's like, and 19thly, we need to, and I was thinking, oh dear, what shall I tell this woman? What shall I tell her about? You can't have a list of, you can't just, when you're doing a presentation, so when it comes to data, do not just list a load of stuff. Okay, just remember the rule of three, don't go up to 19. But there's a reason I told you that story. Why stories? The reason I'm telling you a story is because guess what? Stories are 22 times more memorable when told, rather than just given facts alone. If you tell facts through stories, they're 22 times more memorable. 22 times. And I'm also going to play a little trick with you. There's a little picture of a brain there. Imagine the number 22. 2 ducks. Is it 2 ducks in the bingo card? 2 ducks, 22, right? So now you're going to remember the number 22. 22 times more memorable. It's a no-brainer. Tell a story. You're thinking, woo, but what story do I tell? How would I tell a story? So, quick question to you. What do you learn from that story that I told you? What do you learn from it? Have a think. What did you learn about me? You learned about my client. She had 19 items on her list. But it was really just a mechanism for me to tell you a story about. What else did you learn? What did you learn in that story? Go on, I dare you. People only taking the first 1 point. That's a good point, yes. The other thing is, okay, that story, what you learn in that story, is you learn quite a lot about me, my personality, where I'm from, my attitude. It's a really quick way to tell people about yourself without saying, and let me tell you about me and my credibility and my organisation. Telling a story is a really good way to sprinkle in the information that you need to give people about your organisation, what you do, your projects. It's a really good way to learn by telling a story. So when you see data in a presentation like that, when you have to tell your audience about data or figures or reviews and all that kind of stuff, but when you see that in a presentation, how does it make you feel? Thumbs up if it makes you feel good. Are there any thumbs go? Yes? You're obviously an anomaly, sir, but thank you very much. So we have one person who says, yes, I want to see data on my slides. But the thing is, right, there's always a story behind data, and a lot of my clients say, well, how am I supposed to tell a story if I've got boring data? How am I supposed to tell a story? So, really the tip here is, don't just give people data. Don't just give people facts. And now you're thinking, right, so how can I tell a story? So just a very obvious tip number 2 is, if you remember that facts, you're telling somebody a fact, they're only going to remember some of it, 22 times less likely to remember The other little thing about the data in the spreadsheet is in my book, my rules of how to communicate well, I think if you can read it, why don't you just email it? There's no point in presenting something that you can actually read. And because I'm helping people with a lot of speeches and pitches and town halls and seminars, quite often I realise that really a lot of the material is written material really good for reading. And written material that's really good for reading often isn't really good for saying out loud. And as a broadcaster, we don't even call a script, we call it a cue. A transcript, that's really what the spoken word is. A spoken word is a different animal to a written word. And really, the spoken word, that's when powerful storytelling and impactful storytelling comes in. Okay, so how? Are you ready? Are you ready for the challenge? I want to know how you can tell a story. You're still thinking, hang on a minute. You're not going to get us all telling a story. You're not going to get me to do it. And I'm thinking, oh yes, I am. How can you tell a story? Okay, in the next 2 minutes, you're all going to have a story in your head, okay? That's my challenge. So, you're thinking, yeah, but what about the structure? That's what people say. No, the stories have elements. They have elements, pathos, they have structures. You read the TEDx book, there's some elements you've got to have. So I actually did a little bit of research. I thought, yeah, they do have elements and structure that's quite important. So I thought, I'll look into how does Aristotle structure storytelling. I thought I'll go to the most, really credible source of story and structure. Okay? And guess what the structure is? Aristotle came up with this brainwave of how to structure a story. Okay, do you know what it is? And I remember reading this like, oh wow, guess what? Well, I was reading this ancient scripture. A really good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's it, right? That is it. Anybody can get their head around that. So actually my advice is this. It doesn't really matter about structure. Why worry about structure and being perfect? I'll tell you what a story really is. A story is just something, a memory. It's a thought. You're sharing a situation with somebody else. It doesn't really have to be perfect. You don't have to be a creative or a Disney scriptwriter to be able to share a story. So, I've got a really easy storytelling trick. Now I'm going to ask you, this is tip number 4. This is a storytelling trick that you can now play with, use with your teams, and use in your work every day. This is what it is, okay? Just pick a topic, any topic, and this is not rehearsed, and there's no plants in the audience here, right? I'm going to get you to pick a topic. So, madam, you were laughing earlier. If you have to pick a topic, it doesn't matter what it is, just pick it out of the air. This is not a plant. You're not a plant, are you? Okay, pick a topic. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. I'm not going to feed you a line. Just any topic.
Morning coffee.
Morning coffee. Okay, thank you. What's your name? Sorry. Shadi. Shadi. Right, I'm trying to remember your name. Shadi has picked the topic of morning coffee. Okay, so now I'm going to invite you to think. Morning coffee. What does it smell like? Where do you have yours? Do you like it? How do you have it? Is it a latte? Do you like it weak and white, like my men? Or strong and black? No, how do you like your coffee? What kind of, is it cappuccino? Do you go to a coffee shop? Do you make it yourself? Do you have one of those funny little cappuccino machines where you have to like do your own milk? Okay, morning coffee, okay? And now I'm going to invite you, the first thing that comes into your head, the first memory that comes into your head, it could be today, it could be yesterday, it could be an hour ago, it could be when you were 5 years old. First time you tried coffee. Okay? Just think of the first memory, and it has to be a moment. A moment when you sipped that coffee. Okay? Can you think of that? Okay, and now I'm going to get you to do a quick practical exercise. I'm going to get you to turn to the person next to you. Yes, this is practical. You're going to do some networking now. Turn to the person next to you and start the sentence like this. I remember one time when, and share your coffee memory. Okay? It doesn't matter what the memory is. It doesn't matter how good, the quality of the memory doesn't matter. So turn to the person next to you. You ready? I'm going to count you in like a live studio, okay? Okay, and you're going to be talking to the person next to you in 3, 2, 1. I remember one time when, and share your memory now.
Hi.
I remember one time when I